Thank you so much, Councillor Yancey, for taking this time to sit down with me and just have a conversation about this upcoming election. It's really exciting as we get closer to the date of November 3rd, 2015. We know a lot of people in District 4 are going to have a decision to make. But we wanted to have a one-on-one conversation with you from your perspective about, what's going on now with you as a city councilor and your position and some of your future goals for District 4.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Latoya, for all the work you do for the community. I believe that you have the level of commitment and expertise that's going to bode very well in the future.
Thank you.
As for me, I am really looking forward to another term on the City Council. We have a lot of work to do. We've made progress. Before I was elected, this district was one of the most neglected in the city.
Indeed.
And because of our efforts working in partnership with community members, we've made some changes. We did not have any stops along the Fairmount Line, but a coalition came together, actually back in the early 80s, which resulted in the opening of a stop at Morton Village and Uplands Corner. But we weren't satisfied with that.
Right.
So the folks at Four Corners, I know you were active with this, as well as Marvin Martin and somebody named Mella Bush.
I'm familiar with that.
Remember? And hundreds of others came together, and we had a great victory. Now we have 5 stops along that line that used to neglect us.
That was a phenomenal victory. Great is not really the right word. Phenomenal victory.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But it's very symbolic of a vision I've had of this community for many, many years. It was back in 1985 when I announced that we will have some stops along that line, that we are no longer going to be in a situation where this community is simply passed by.
That's right.
By wealthy commuters, while people in our community had to wait upwards of an hour just to get downtown. It made no sense.
That's right. And the Fairmount Line opened up access to jobs straight into downtown from right in the heart of the district.
That's right.
And because I was involved in that work, it's great to hear you speak about it because it was a long time coming.
Yes. And
it takes, resilience, and you really sticking to it and working with community to make things like that happen. And that's very important, and it's a credit to you.
Well, thank you. The people are really worth the fight, worth the sacrifice.
Yes.
But we also had areas where we did not even have decent police protection. I know that seems kind of strange now because we have a pretty healthy presence of police in our community, but it wasn't always the case. And it used to be that they would only respond to 911 calls, which means that our police department was more reactionary,
right,
more reactive than proactive. Today, we're moving in the direction of having serious community policing, where the police meet with the community, and the community actually give direction to the police, not the other way around.
That's important.
And it's not unusual to see our police officers serving our senior citizens and others on Thanksgiving, distributing toys to our children around Christmas time, and even coming up, I'm sure there's going to be several events hosted by the police department around Valentine's.
And Halloween.
Halloween and Valentine's Day. So we've made progress, but there's still some major outstanding issues. In spite of the progress, we still have incidents where police may abuse their authority. And I never tolerated that. I believe that the police have to work for the community and not serve as some type of foreign force of occupation.
That's right.
The police have to be a part of the community and have respect and even love for the community. I think many of our officers do, but some may not. Any officer that abuses his or her authority has to be brought to justice. That's why I have submitted legislation to require the establishment of a civilian review board. And I think this is the time to do it. I've attempted, half dozen times in the past without any real success because it's difficult getting support on the city council. The police commission usually is against it. The Patrolman Association is adamantly opposed, even to this day. But we're going to make it happen. Every major city throughout the United States of America has an independent civilian review board. So Boston is behind the times on that. But we're going to catch up.
That's right. So did you want to speak a little bit about the body cam ordinance? Yes.
I'm very excited about that as well. Far too often we depend on happenstance to document interaction between the police and the community. And in those instances where deadly force is used, there's no question in my mind that we need a video record of it. And it's ironic that when the police commissioner attempts to exonerate his officers when they do use deadly force, what do? They scour the neighborhood to see if there were cameras attached to any nearby buildings to document what happened. And very often, those pictures and videos are not clear at all. So the police are still left with creating their own narrative. If the police officers had body cameras, then there'd be no question about what
right.
transpired.
It had to be a hard thing because you introduced the body cam ordinance and there was pushback. But you stood firm because it's something that you really feel would benefit not only your district but also the city as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I actually had the opportunity to sit in the hearing and hear some of the responses. And I just think that it's really commendable that even though at first they may not have seen that it may have been a good thing, now they've seen that have come on board because you stuck to it and even brought in members of the community to support the efforts, and now they're considering it.
Yes. Well, there will be a pilot program, but we can't stop there. I want it to be required. Many years ago, our police officers didn't even have bulletproof vests.
Wow.
I proposed an audit when I was chair of the Public Safety Committee that resulted in the city paying for bulletproof vests for our police officers. So you would think, that made sense, right?
It does make sense.
Why didn't it happen before? I think it was a disincentive for our police officers to wear vests if they had to pay $1,000 for them. So we've made a lot of changes over time. We did not have a decent library in the Mattapan area. It was a very dilapidated building, 7,000 square feet. It was a quaint building. It could have served as someone's home very nicely. Right now it houses the Boys and Girls Club operation, a part of it. But this is the 21st century, and we have to be able to provide 21st century services to the population that I represent.
That's right.
Because other communities take it for granted.
That's right.
But I insist that this community be treated with dignity and respect, and that the city fulfills its responsibility of providing services and protection to the people of Boston, all neighborhoods of Boston.
That is so important. I've only lived in District 4 for 8 years, but before coming here, I don't know that I saw any city councilor in the community as much as you. And it surprised me to hear people say, well, what does Councillor Yancey do? So it kind of empowers the community to be more engaged in a lot of the things that are happening within District 4 because there is a lot. We talked about body cameras, and I think that now we can talk about a more sensitive subject where there have been some incidents with young people losing their life on the streets, and it's probably, as a mother, it's heartbreaking to see that the children feel lost.
Yes.
So do you have any ideas about how to engage the youth further, bring them in and help them understand their value, their worth, etc.?
Well, I do have many, many ideas, but my first idea is to actually convene some sessions where I can actually sit down and listen to the concerns that younger members of our community have. They should be listened to and respected, as well as nurtured and protected. But we have to model the behavior that we expect our children to emulate.
Right.
Not necessarily our children, but children in the community in general. So people may find it kind of strange that, whenever they see me, most of the time I have a tie and a jacket. Not all the time. I get casual once in a great while.
Right.
But I want to really set the example. And when I was a student in the Boston Public School System, elementary school, my mother put a suit and tie on me most of the time I went to school. And, I stood out. It was kind of awkward because very few other children did. But it was just a question of teaching some values and teaching a sense of self-respect and self-esteem. I think that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
But we have some fundamental problems facing our young people. This is a very difficult time to be a young person in this country, not just in the city of Boston. And with the proliferation of drugs and guns and other temptations, if we don't create an environment where our children have that level of self-respect so that they can say no. It's very difficult to say no when there's a lot of peer pressure. So I want children to learn how to say no. But I also want the community not to accept no for an answer
That's right.
with regards to the issues of impacting this community, especially our children. So it's true that since 1995, for example, I've been fighting to build a high school that we need. And no one challenges me on the facts that we need it. But it hasn't been a real priority. And I think that's really symptomatic of the manner in which society views our young people.
There definitely needs to be a highlight on the fact that you've been pushing for this long for the young people. And anytime I hear you speak out publicly, you always say, hold your city councilors accountable.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you say this every single time, so the message should not be lost in translation, because you are asking people to hold him accountable for the position that he's held for a long time now.
Yes.
You being a city councilor that has been in office the longest,
Yes.
could probably teach some of the other city councilors how to do things.
In fact, I think it's dangerous, given the mix of the elected members of city government today, to replace the most senior member with the most junior member, because we have a very young mayoral administration
Right.
who's bringing on young people, I shouldn't say young people, inexperienced individuals with regards to city government, okay, of different ages, old and young, which I think can be very positive, brings, you know, some energy, hopefully some new ideas, even though some young people have very old ideas that they think are new.
Right.
We've been there, we've done it, but they haven't. So it's healthy to have a mix